Alright folks, Pliskin by 51mm here, and I've got my M1A loaded up on the table, and I figured I'd incorporate this little section of information that I'm wanting to touch on into my M1A mods video series, which is still ongoing. I am currently still working on the barrels section of it, writing down notes and whatnot for that, but I figured I'd touch up on a quick little tidbit of information that some people who aren't into M14s or M1As might not know, and this is simply just to add some information to the full video on the barrels when I finally get that up and done with onto YouTube, and be some information for people who are looking to buy an M14 but don't really know the ins and outs of the chamber question for M1As, M14s. Let me move this target board out of my way, I keep bumping it. But the other night I was watching a video on a channel by the name of the Rifle Chair. He's a guy up in Canada, and he had a Norinco M305, which is China's version of the M14. They call it the M305, and they've got several different variations of it and several different calibers. Well, anyway, the Rifle Chair, I watch him every now and then, and I forget his actual name, but he was shooting a Norinco M305, and he was shooting reloads through it, 308 reloads, and he's testing round nose bullets in the M1A, seeing if the round nose bullet types can be shot through an M14, and he demonstrated it pretty well using hand loads. So somebody in the comments of that video, they were very adamant, saying that you should never run 308, commercial 308, through an M14 rifle, saying that the chamber is 7.62 NATO, or that you should only run 7.62 NATO through it, and that's simply not true. And I informed the gentleman that it is safe to run both calibers, well, not calibers, but both types, you know, the military 7.62 by 51mm NATO and a 308 commercial ammo through an M1A. Because, you know, he was stating that you shouldn't or can't run 308 through an M14 type when you can. And the place to look for on an M14, if you buy one, depending on how old it is, M1A, or depending on what company you get it from, Springfield Armory is not the only company to make M14 style rifles. I mean, you got Fulton Armory, you got LRB, got Bula, and there might be another one in there I'm forgetting. There's Norinco, but in the United States we can't get those here no more. And then there's James River Armory, but they're kind of like in cahoots with Bula. But on some M14 rifles you will get the, like, you know, traditional military roll mark back here on the hill of the receiver. Sometimes those say 7.62 millimeter, like U.S. Rifle M14 7.62 millimeter. And that's mostly just for, you know, collectors, you know, to add authenticity to it. That's just a mark on the receiver. I mean, this one, mine, here, I'll cover up my serial number and let y'all see. Mine doesn't even have any caliber identification on the heel back here of the receiver. It just says U.S. Rifle M1A Springfield Armory, and like a trademark symbol, and it has no mention of caliber on the back of the receiver there. The place to look for the caliber of a rifle, or of an M14, my bad, is right here on the barrel. It says If you can see right there, it says National Match 308. So don't use the roll mark on the back of the receiver of an M14 type. Now, depending on how old it is, I mean, if it says 7.62 NATO back here, but it says something contradictory to it up here, like see it says 308 up here, that means this rifle is chambered for 308, so it's safe to shoot both through it. But if it says 7.62 NATO or 7.62mm or something like that on the receiver, the roll stamp back here on the receiver hill, and you come up here and you look on the barrel, and it don't matter where it is on the barrel. Mine has it right here, but it could have it somewhere else. On the standard M1A that Springfield offers, it says 308 right here between the gas port and up here where the plug holds the gas piston onto the barrel. It says 308 right there. But if it says like 7.62 NATO or 7.62mm back here, and you come up here and it says 7.62 on it, and I'm just saying this for reference sake and just for safety's sake, because there might be some M14s out there floating around that do have 7.62 NATO chambers. They may be early M14 types. They may have a an actual military M14 barrel added into them or something. I don't know the legalities of that, but it's always better to be safe than sorry. But if it says 7.62 NATO back here or 7.62mm back here, and it says 7.62 out here on the barrel, anywhere, doesn't matter, it don't have to be out here, it could be anywhere, it's probably safe to assume that you should only probably run 7.62 by 51mm through it. And you could also, if it ain't got no marks out here on the barrel, like out here where you can visibly see on these M1 M14 style types, it could possibly have the actual barrel chambering written on it back in here, like back in here up under the barrel, because I have seen some M1 Garands have their caliber written right up in here. Now, I don't think that's more of a thing for the M14. I think most M14 style rifles, they have it written out on the barrel. But for the M1 Garand has like stock ferrules and hand guards all along the barrel. If you've ever, I'm sure everybody who's watching this has seen an M1 Garand, but if you look at the difference between an M1 Garand and the M14, M14's got a lot of its barrel exposed out here between the gas system and the the flash hider. A lot of barrel exposed, whereas on a M1 Garand, most of the M1 Garand is covered up. Covered up on the M1 Garands. It's got hand guards and stuff, and so they have the the caliber and where the barrel was made and all that written here on the barrel, and you can see it when you pull the charging handle to the rear. So if for any reason on an M1A M14 style you can't seem to find what it's chambered for, try checking here. Just pull the charging handle to the rear and look, see if there's any letters, and then if you still can't find any, take it apart, look on the underside of the barrel, and then if that don't work, just Google search the type of rifle, because there's some other M14 type manufacturers that made M14s for a long time or for a while, and then they went out of business, but the rifles they made are still floating around. One notable one is called Arms Corps, if I'm remembering the name right. I've held one of their M14s. It was really well made at a local store here in town. The Arms Corps M14 is really nice, really well made. It was actually owned by a local gunsmith here in town. I really wish I could have bought it, but it was just out of my price range. But it had a lot of physical similarities to the one I've got and the other Springfields I've handled, but there was some minor things on it that were different. And some companies like LRB and Fulton Armory, for example, they try to go for the same type of authenticity, that like with the little markings and stuff that you would see on an actual M14. So they have 7.62 written back here because military M14s are chambered in 7.62, whereas most civilian M14s are chambered in 308. So I figured I'd make this little video to kind of kickstart the barrel videos. I will touch up on this subject some more when I get the main video up. Between 308 and 7.62 NATO, there's only like 0.003 of a difference in the physical cartridges, 308 commercial and 7.62 NATO military. But what the real difference is the rifle chamber. And if I remember correctly, 7.62 NATO chambers are slightly longer than commercial 308 chambers. And commercial 308 is, got more horsepower, it's got more pressure in the case. So you got to really pay attention when you buy a 308. I mean, most these days are chambered in 308, but you could find yourself with one that's in 7.62 NATO, and the chambers on them in the physical rifle aren't rated for 308. Or so I have read. I've read some people say that that commercial 308 isn't really loaded that hot. But it's better to be safe than sorry when it comes to stuff like this. So anyway, guys, I hope you all enjoyed the video. I'll get the other ones that I need to do up soon, but figured I'd touch this up to kick off the next M14 mods video that I will be doing. See you all in the next video.